Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll be starting here momentarily. Apologies for the entree delay. Connected to your system? Yeah. Okay. But it's like how I did it. So I'm going to set up some detection. But yeah, we just gotta make sure this going to give them that. Yeah, close, but wow. I just so I'm still in the neighborhood. Got a wall or yeah, I wanted to bar. Yeah, my house was Branch Hampton. So right space for right into your meadow. It'll be about 10 more. Oh, yeah, yeah. How much at a time? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Virtual attendees and everyone in the room. So on our LinkedIn group, for the chapter member who's a doctoral student at Hood College in Frederick, Maryland, is looking for some help via a survey. So the crux of the survey is if you've recently participated in the leadership development session or program. We shortened the link because it's a little bit long. So not that we want you to multitask during the meeting, but if you want to take a screen cap and we'll put it in the newsletter as well. But even if it was just like a leadership class or like a full program, but I took the survey a few days ago and got a lot out of it. So, okay. Coyote McKenna, if you want to come up. So we're happy to announce that with new chapter leadership, we're trying to think outside the box a little bit in terms of not just the first Wednesday of the month and get people out and about and working together. So we're partnering with PMI Baltimore for the project management night out at the ballpark. That unfortunately Montgomery County no longer has a minor league team. They did in the early 1900s. So but with real estate here, like I don't see a place for a parking lot and a stadium. So the Frederick Keys, who were a long time were in the Baltimore Orioles minor league system and recently switched to MLB Draft League, where all their players are college students who this is how they spend their summer to get experience and attract some scouts and attention. A recent alum was just on the Texas Rangers, who won the World Series last October. So there is a upper mobility from the MLB Draft League, even though it's not quite the same as being drafted out of high school. So that'll be Saturday, June 22nd. Hopefully we have better weather than we're having now, which is a good disclaimer that there is some heavy rain and a potential tornado warning in the area. So if we do lose power and the Zoom feed cuts out, Lieutenant Morgan has a videographer here, so we'll make sure everyone gets the full presentation. You'll still get the PDUs, but hopefully I didn't just jinx us. So, but $33 gets you networking with your peers, which is priceless. A barbecue picnic meal, a seat to the game on the third base line, and post-game fireworks, which probably won't start until 9:30-ish. So we have a great marketing leader with the Frederick Keys here just to say a couple words about the team and the campaign that starts at home this weekend. So we'll turn it over to Ms. McKenna.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having us. So the Frederick Keys are currently playing right now as we speak in West Virginia. They started off their season last night and they are on a 6-game road trip. So they're on game 2 tonight. They won last night. And then we come home on Tuesday and we have our home opener and we play 6 games at home. Like Matt said, we used to be a direct affiliate with the Baltimore Orioles, but now we're in the MLB Draft League. So a lot of these guys are looking to get drafted in July, and then we actually switch halfway through the season to become pro. So we have entry-level professionals playing for us. But yeah, the networking event is going to be awesome. The food that's provided is great. You guys have like an all-you-can-eat buffet. And the fireworks are always a big hit. So I think it'll be a lot of fun.
And Karen, if you want to come up. So everyone here in the audience who braved the weather received a raffle ticket. So this raffle prize will either be exchanged for 2 tickets to the baseball game, or if you're not able to make it, a non-member priced dinner ticket when we come back from summer vacation that you could use to bring a friend, colleague, peer, introduce them to the chapter. So if we have our furry guest of honor pull the ticket.
First of all, did everybody get a ticket?
Okay, board members aren't applicable.
All right, here we go.
And that number is?
Last 3 digits are 850.
850. Do we have a winner? No? Okay.
This is 835.
835. Hey, Mr. Baldwin. So let us know what your preference is by the end of the night, and we'll take care of you. Okay, well, a round of applause for our special guest. Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much. Sure. Yeah. Okay. We do have pocket schedules for everyone upon their exit, which is good to keep in your wallet or purse. And let's support the Frederick Keys this year. Okay, last month, for those who were here, participated in Zoom, we announced our scholarship program winners. We announced the two high schools, Bethesda, Chevy Chase, and Damascus. So I'll bring Mr. Steckel up to speak on the scholarship program. A round of applause for Mr. Steckel.
Well, yes, every year we do a drawing. We put out a notice to the schools, send out an application for scholarship. We have two $1,500 scholarship checks that we give. And members who have children who are seniors in high school, and not even a member, but a grandparent or someone like that with a senior, they are eligible for one of those checks. And then when that one is chosen from the membership bin, the rest go back into the general bin and they have a second chance to win. So it's a good deal. And I'm already getting started to get the application up to date, edited for next school year. We have a 10-question quiz embedded in it because we want folks to be able to learn a little bit about PMI and project management. So our two winners, we're thrilled to hear that they've won. The counselors at the school, I go through the counselors so they can inform the students, and they're always happy. Yeah, Damascus High, we've had one or two winners in the past from Damascus. I think it's the first time for Chevy Chase. So if you know someone who's going to be a senior next year, a child or a neighbor, let them know about this and be on the lookout for it. It'll be listed along with all of the other scholarship potentials that are sent out in a specific website by the school system each year, and just wish them good luck. So thank you.
Okay, thank you to all our members who voted in last month's election. We had 87 voting members. So out of 1,800 members, that's more than one vote. So we appreciate it. Congratulations to our new officers, two of which are here, including me, Mr. William Bill Ziegler, stand up, who will be our Vice President of Program, and then Casa, who most know from his time as a co-VP of Programs, will be coming into an education certification role. And thank you for your confidence for me to serve as the president over the next 2 years. Won't let you down, and looking forward to taking the chapter and into the future and continuing Mr. Geis's all about the members motto and dedication. Okay, PMI has been investing in AI over the past year. Their second class, which focuses more on data landscape, Gen AI for project managers, is available for free. You can get 5 PDUs. It takes about 2 hours if you click on everything. So good use to continue to become AI curious and build those skill sets, because Gen AI is already here, and we have some great things coming remaining in the program year on that. Chapter training alert, if you could save the date, Monday, August 26th, all-day session. A few years ago, at the heart of the pandemic, we partnered with the National Institute of Health via our connection with Dr. Scott Chen, a former board member. We're happy to continue that with a face-to-face meeting, and that'll be Excellence Unleashed, Project Management and Health and Research Summit. So we'll be opening up registration for that over the coming weeks, and we'll continue to promote that. So a great opportunity for our members. Just another plug that PMI is starting to go more deep into construction management. To date, PMI has been more looked at IT and professional service project managers, not so much on the construction side. So for anyone that is construction minded or knows other project managers that are in the construction PM field, which is totally different, just a quick plug there. Does anyone serve as a hiring manager or have any jobs to offer? Okay. We're over the summer, one of our summer projects is to build out a virtual job board. So we look forward to getting that in your hands sooner than later. If you need PDUs, our chapter YouTube channel, which will have our presentation from Lieutenant Morgan on tomorrow morning, is a great way to get PDUs. The claim code is in the description. We're one of the few chapters in the PMI Global Sphere with a sister Toastmasters chapter. Their meeting is next Wednesday in person at Walter Johnson High School in Bethesda. So we can all improve our public speaking. So over the summer, if life's a little less busy and chaotic, it would be great to see some of you either virtually or in person at the Toastmasters meetings. As we mentioned last month, longtime board member and global project manager leader Laura Bernard has wrote her first book. That comes out in September, but if you pre-order from her website, you can get virtual access to the book. So PMOs have really transformed from the past 10 to 15 years, but she's kept right on the cusp of it. So modern day PMOs and how they can be effective. TEDx, for those familiar with TED Talks, which can't go over 18 minutes, most of which don't have too many slides or bells and whistles. It's more the power of the talk. TEDx Mid-Atlantic, which is one of the premier East Coast TEDx events, has been on a break since 2019 because of the pandemic, but it's coming back this Saturday. That'll be in the Shakespeare Theater, Harmon Hall in DC, across the street from where the Wizards and Capitals play at Capital One Arena. Right now, if you put a discount code in, bring a friend, it's only $59 for a whole day of inspiring TED Talk sessions. Even though it doesn't automatically come with PDUs, since it's not PMI related, there's a way that you can self-report those PDUs. So if you are interested in going to the session, I can help you with that. Our sister chapters are busy this summer. PMI WDC has their monthly chapter meeting next Tuesday on essential interview skills with Frank Bartolomeu and Mark Tolbert, who have been past Montgomery County speakers, and their symposiums in late August with 10 PDUs available to be gained. That will come at a charge, but it's not that much. PMI Baltimore, in addition to the baseball game with us, has their Columbia, Maryland division meeting next Wednesday. They're still deciphering on the speaker there. And then there's a free event next Thursday on working with the Baltimore Chamber of Commerce and how to connect and thrive in Baltimore. And then PMI Silver Spring has a virtual meeting next week on skill builder workshops. And then their symposium is also in late August. Our education partners are doing good things. One of my goals for this week is to populate our event calendar with everything that our education partners are working on, so stay tuned for that. And we're very excited to welcome Lieutenant Joe Morgan to our stage for the first time. He's a retired Washington D.C. firefighter, featured speaker of the D.C. Speakers Bureau and the D.C. chapter, multiple fire certifications, a veteran of the U.S. Navy, community leader as a deacon of his ministry, and a world-renowned drummer, which most people don't know. So we apologize for the delay, but we're very grateful to have Lieutenant Morgan share his experiences with us. This will be more TED Talk style because we want to really have you both virtually on Zoom and in the room visualize the experience and look at how you would have responded to adversity and resilience. And then towards the end of the presentation, if there's time, we have a few bookmark things to pivot it back to project management. But a round of applause for Lieutenant Morgan, and the stage is yours.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, thank you. I can hear you. You can hear me okay, right? So, no matter the difficulties, the trials, or the disappointments, those who have reached the top have never lost hope. Hope gives us the promise of something good, despite the odds, something we can obtain. Because hope sets the mind in a positive vein. It gives us something to look forward to, but the patience to wait. It is a heartwarming blend of desire, expectation, patience, and joy. It is an indispensable medicine for the soul. I'm Lieutenant Morgan, Joe Morgan, retired lieutenant from Washington, D.C. Fire Department, and I am so thankful to be here with you tonight. I want to first thank Matt for inviting me and all of the board members for allowing me to be here with you tonight. And what I'm going to do is share with you a story. And it's a real story. And it'll give you an idea of some of the difficulties and some of the disappointments that I experienced and how I was able to make it through. It was Memorial Day weekend, 1999. We actually are celebrating 25 years anniversary. I was working overtime. My job was a driver, and I was supposed to drive that night. But instead, because of the respect that I had for the guys that were working, and because I wanted to do what firefighters do, fight fire, I decided not to drive that night and go to fight fire. My partner and I were on the back step, what they call the back step. This is where the two guys that carry the hose lines into the building, we are back there communicating with each other. And we got a call. Engine 26, respond first due for the house fire. I was part of that engine company. And as we were approaching the firehouse to go back from a call we were running earlier, where I could actually see the bay door starting to rise because the truck company was preparing to respond with us. We took a right turn and we headed towards the house. It was a beautiful weekend. It was calm until that night. As we got to the front of the house, the black smoke was billowing out. The heat met us as we were going into the room. The temperature at that point was somewhere around 500 degrees. Our gear is made to respond to that, to protect us from that. And so Lou Matthews and myself, we crawled into the house. The smoke was so heavy, so black, that you couldn't see your hand in front of your eyes. And the only thing I could do was rely on the training I had and crawl to try to find the fire. We got to an area where it was some visibility. I could make out that I was in the living room. I could see a sliding glass door off to the left. I could see the dinette area in the kitchen. So obviously, whatever was generating that heat, generating that smoke, we had crawled past. Shortly after that, and I mean shortly after that, I turned to my left. There was a doorway and a blast of flame blew through that door. The visibility that I had was gone instantly. The heat banked down on us so hard, so intensely. Only thing I could do was try to move away from it, and I moved further into the room. My partner Lou Matthews and I were scrambling to get away from this heat. It was unbelievably hot. Finally, we got to a place where the temperature in the room, the smoke was starting to bank down. The heat was so intense that we had to make our way out, because if we had not, we were surely going to die. Back in those days, all the firefighters didn't have radios, so I couldn't call for help. Only thing I could do was talk to my partner Lou and say we needed to get out. And we scrambled to look for a hose line because we had lost contact with the one that we had. And by God's grace, I was able to find that hose. And I rolled on my back, and I was able to cool the room down by spraying the ceiling with the water. I crawled out thinking that Lou Matthews was with me or had already made his way. I came out the front door. I was burned, but I didn't know how badly. I dove out, and I could tell the team that was on the outside where they could find Lou. I sustained second and third degree burns over 65% of my body. When you look at me standing here, you wouldn't be able to tell. But my entire body has been damaged from that heat. It was all the heat that penetrated the suit that caused the damage to my body. When I got to the hospital that night, they immediately wanted to do emergency surgery to save my life. They gave me 5% chance to survive. And I was in the hospital in the ICU in Washington Hospital Center for 2.5 months. I had a multitude of surgeries while I was there, 15 just to go home. And all the while, the only thing that I could think of, the only thing that was driving me was I was a young parent, and I had 2 young children, and I had to make it home to them. I was a single parent, and my whole focus was death is not an option because I needed to get home to my children. I can remember the pain would be so intense when they would clean my wounds, when they would bandage me. There were times when I would lay on the bed, tears running down my face. And there was a picture of my son and my daughter that was pinned to a curtain that was laying next to my bed. And I would roll on my side as they cleaned my wounds, and I look at them through my tears and just think, I have to get home. And that was my drive. Shortly after that, I found out that Lou Matthews, the firefighter who was with me, did not survive. He died the next day. As I said, I spent 2.5 months in the hospital. It was difficult. It was hard. When I go back and I think about what happened at that fire, plans that we had as firefighters went wrong. You have procedures that you follow. You have guidelines that you use. But all of that went out the window, and everybody that was in that house that day was either injured or they were killed. And I didn't mention that there was another firefighter there as well, Anthony Phillips. He was with another company. He came in behind us, and he did not survive. There are things that you will experience in life that will be hard. There are things in life that you will experience in life that will knock you to your knees. But you have a power inside of you that you don't know exists. Because I had a power inside of me that I did not know was there. I can guarantee you that the night before I went to work that day, and even the night before, when we were coming back to the firehouse off of a run, I did not know that the power that resided inside of me until I was forced to use it. Fire requires three elements to burn. You have heat, you have fuel, and you have air. You take away any one of those three, and the fire goes out. And I liken that to how we live our lives, or how we should live our lives. When we talk about fire, that spark, that thing that makes you say, this is it, this is what I need to do, this is the direction that I need to go. All of you had that at one point. That's what made you decide to live the life that you're living right now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't know. This stretch over? There we go. Okay. I'm sorry. So that drive, that spark, that light, that thing that made you decide this is what I want to do. And then we talk about the fuel. What is the fuel? The fuel is that thing that wakes you up in the morning. It's the thing that stays with you when you go to bed at night. It's in your dreams. And then when we talk about the air, that is the hope. That is the desire. That is what makes you feel great about the direction that you're going. And you've all experienced that. And you're all here because of that. But one thing I can tell you is that your whys will change over time. I mentioned that I had 2 young children. So my drive, my why, the reason that I was going and trying to get home was to be with them. But then I got home. And then there was a time where I had to actually go from recovery to attempting to live a life of ordinary. I came to a place where I had to make a decision on where was I going from this place forward. And I wanted to go back to firefighting because that was my love. And that's what I did. That's what I worked so hard to do. I got in and I did the work. I got in and I persevered. I worked hard at it. I ran, I stretched, I exercised. I did everything that was needed to get back to firefighting. But unfortunately, the damage to my skin wouldn't allow me to do it anymore. So that was devastating. And I ended up at the training academy training firefighters. So that was the next best love for me. Training firefighters how to be firefighters. Training other firefighters how to teach firefighters to be firefighters. That's what I was doing. And I fell in love with that. And that was my drive. That was my new passion. But that's not all. Then I got a visit from the fire chief. And they told me because of the damages to my skin, they told me because of the things that happened on that fire ground that I would not be able to stay on the job and they were going to retire me. Devastating. I was retired in 2004 on disability. I went into a depression that was so deep that it was hard to even recognize me. And fortunately for me, I had someone that was next to me, someone who I could count on. And that was my now wife, but she was my girlfriend then. And she made it a point to not allow me to stay in that deep funk. She was tough. She was tougher than anything that I had to go through in order to get better. But she did it all in love. And as I said, she was my girlfriend then, and I wasn't the best boyfriend. But I'm thankful to say now that she has a dynamic husband training program that I'm involved in. And so she teaches me how to be a better husband. And I'm thankfully the only student that she has right now. So I went from being driven to get back to work. Get home to my children. I went to being driven to get back to work. And now I had to find another drive because I was no longer able to do what I wanted to do. I was no longer able to do the love that I loved. And so that brings me where I am right here today. I've had the opportunity to meet people who have poured into my life, who have given me that hope that I didn't have. There was a time, and this was about 2010, where I felt like I was living on an island because I didn't know anyone who had been through burns as badly as I. And so I was invited to attend a World Burn Congress, which is sponsored by the Phoenix Society. And it is basically an organization that supports burn survivors, caregivers, fire service, and teaches them about programs that are available and creates a community like what you have right here. So I was introduced to that, and I had no idea what to expect. I would always tell the one who was inviting me, no, that's not for me, because I was in my own funk. I was in my own depression. But I decided to go. And when I was there, we arrived in Galveston, Texas, and I met amazing people. Some of them that had burns greater than mine. No, not, well, let me take that back. Not many that had burns greater than mine. Some had burns less than mine, but were more visible. So one evening, one afternoon, my wife and I were sitting poolside, and there was a young kid in the pool. They had a makeshift man-made island with a palm tree in the middle. And there was a beach ball that was resting next to that palm tree. And this young guy was trying his best to get up on that island to get to that beach ball. He climbed as best he could, but he could not get there. But then I remembered seeing him earlier that day. He was a burn survivor as well. He was small, frail, maybe about 6 or 7 years old. He had a small patch of brown hair that was remaining on his head. Both hands had been amputated at the wrist. And the only thing that I could think of when I saw this young kid was the empathy that I felt for him. Because the profession that I chose is what caused me to be burnt. But he did not choose what had happened to him. And so I'm watching this kid, and I'm watching him try to get to that ball. And then suddenly, some older boys swam over to him. Now, the father in me, sat up on the edge of my chair to make sure that these kids would not take advantage of him. One of the older boys jumped up on the island. He reached down and grabbed the ball, jumped back into the pool, and then he handed the ball to the young guy. And they all played together for the rest of the day because they had found their community. They had found their connection. And so that's what I see with you as I'm standing here. You have your community, you have your connection, and you support each other, you love each other, you lean on each other, you teach each other, you share with each other. And that is so important into how we live our lives. And it doesn't just stop here. And it doesn't just start here. It's in your families. It's your friends, your community. You are the hope that I mentioned before. You're the catalyst for what people are going to gravitate to be better just because of you, just by meeting you, just by being near you, just because of who you are. I have had the opportunity to come here tonight to share my story with you, hoping that there will be a level of inspiration, hoping that there will be a level of understanding that you have power inside of you that can only be ignited by something that becomes important to you. And then when it's ignited, if it's not harnessed, it can go really bad. But when you harness that power, you can change the world. One person, one decision, one outreach, one touch at a time. My name is Joe Morgan. I'm a retired lieutenant for the Washington D.C. Fire Department, and I'm so thankful that you allowed me to be here with you tonight. God bless you.
Any questions for Lieutenant Morgan?
Any questions? One question. No question. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for the story. It's very inspiring. My question is that I'm just curious.
Yes.
When you acquire the burning house,
Yes.
what's the reason that you come to give it at first without trying to push off the people?
All right. Good question. So the question was, when we arrived at the house, what was the drive or what was the reason for entering the house without getting the heat out first? So our job is to make entry into the home to contain the fire or knock the fire down so that the residents, if there are any residents inside, can have a way of escape. So when there's any chance that there's a life to be saved, we will risk ours to save theirs. And so that's why we make that entry. You take the water, the hose line inside to put water on the fire, to cool it down, to knock the fire out so that anyone that's inside has a better chance of surviving. And that's why we do it that way. You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yes. So the question was I just burned by the heat of the fire as opposed to actual fire impingement? And the answer is yes, there was the heat. So I failed to mention to you that when we entered the room, it was moderate 500 degrees, which is gear is very capable of surviving that. Temperature rose to 1500 degrees. And it rose to 1500 degrees in approximately 2 seconds. The fire started in the basement and it traveled up the basement stairs into the room where we were. And it's estimated by the National Institute of Science and Technology that it was moving at 20 miles an hour. So the temperature changed within 2 seconds. It didn't give us a chance to really react to it. And so the fire gear itself at that time was rated at about 1200 degrees. Now it's rated higher at 1600 degrees. But that, and then my fire gear was a few years old at that time. So it probably was less than 1200 on the rating. But yes, The heat penetration is what caused all the damage. Yes, yes, ma'am. Hi. You're welcome.
I wonder, how did you push through the pain? I can't even fathom the level of pain that you endure. I'm just curious, what strategies you ended up taking. How'd you do it?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the question was, how did I manage to push through the pain? And that pain was very excruciating. I will honestly say that. So while I was in the hospital, they administered pain medication. That pain medication really only took the edge off. It didn't really sustain when we were going, especially through the cleanings and the debriding and the things that they needed to do to remove the dead skin, to clean the wounds. So a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer, a lot of tears, and just knowing that I had to get home. So I had to perform or had to be resilient in order to see my children again. And so that's basically what it was. It was the drive. It was, and I can't say by any means that it was by myself, because my God, and I'm not speaking to anyone's belief system, but what I believe is God helped me through that. He helped me to make the right decisions to get out of the building. I had to rely on my training to make it out, but then I had to rely on Him to get through all of that. You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, sir. How do I make sense of that? Right, right. Yes. So, and the question was, how how do I make sense of, or how do I um, understand why I was able to come out, if I'm correct, and the other two firefighters were not. Again, it goes back to my belief system, right? But it just so happens that the one firefighter, Anthony Phillips, who was right in front of the door where the flames came through, so he was hit directly by the heat and flames. So he did not survive that night. Lewis Matthews, who was the other firefighter there, after I came out of the building and told them where they could find Lewis Matthews, there was miscommunication that they didn't know that they had a second firefighter that was down. So when they went in to search for Lewis, they actually found Tony. And so they brought Tony out. And then when they realized that he wasn't Lewis, they had to go back to find him. So I was in that heat for approximately 2.5 minutes from the time the heat entered the room until I exited the house. Lewis Matthews was in that heated environment for 20 minutes. I sustained second and third degree burns over 65%. Lewis Matthews had third degree burns over 90% of his body. So it just so happens that the doorway was here, and there's a distance, but Anthony Phillips was here, Lewis Matthews was here, and I was in between. The heat came in, hit Anthony, went over me, came over to the back wall, and came back on Lewis. If you look at the pictures that National Institutes of Technology put together, the computer capture of that, to me, it appears as though the hand of God was over top of me. The way that the fire flow path went from door to the back of the house and back. And it's just a small cup where I was in between that. So that's the best explanation I have. Well, I have other explanations, but that's the one that I'll share with you tonight. Yeah, that was it. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions? Going once? Yes, sir. Excellent.
I'm just curious, like nowadays, do they have like robot or anything it's not a risky?
That is a great question. So the question is, at this stage, with all of the technology that is available, do they have robots that can do the job of firefighters? And so that is a debate that goes back and forth a lot. So there are other departments in other parts of the world that do use some robots. They do use some robotics. They do use drone technology. But what we have found is that you can send a robot in to put out the fire, but you can't teach a robot to listen for a child who's hiding in a closet or underneath a bed. It takes a human quality to be able to do that. There's a certain search and rescue that we do where you go into the room and you have a technique that you use in order to cover the whole room to make sure that you will be able to find anyone who may be hiding or maybe have smoke inhalation and passed out. Certain things at this stage, we don't feel that robots are able to do. So that's why humans are still involved in firefighting. And then most people, 99.9% of the people that do that, that choose that profession, they choose it because they love to help other people. So I hope that answered your question. Yes, sir.
Virtually, I know people are in their living rooms and their cars giving you a standing ovation, and we'd like to give you a standing ovation here for your service. So
oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm very humbled. Thank you so much.
okay, so most of us won't have the opportunity either because we're just too old now, or don't have the courage that it takes to be a firefighter. So I know that there's some who are curious as to they're inspired, but how does this relate to me, or where's the me in this story? So Mr. Carl Pritchard, longtime friend of the chapter and our longest tenured briefer with 13 presentations, is currently fighting stage 4 cancer. He just released a book that's available on Amazon, and we've raffled off a couple copies on a project manager's guide to fighting cancer. At any point, no matter how healthy of a living you live, terminal illness may come. That presents adversity and requires a resilience to continue fighting and to keep as much of a normal life as possible. Another example is the job force. How many people have worked for their company or agency for more than 5 years? By raise of hand. Okay, about half the room more than 10 years. Okay. We've had chapter members who have worked for their companies and agencies as many as 20, 25 years. And then during the pandemic, they were let go or there were mass layoffs, and not the equivalent of being in a fire and going through the physical, emotional, mental turmoil that Lieutenant Morgan did, but in a way, your life as you knew it is over. You still have to support your family. A lot of women and men that find themselves in this situation are applying for 100 jobs a day and dealing with that rejection, but you need to continue to find that resilience to come out on top, get back in the workforce, and don't get down on yourself, because it's not so much an indication of skills as it is just the job market at that time. We have just a couple slides to bookmark. I know we want to get everybody out early with the weather, but building a resilient strategy, risk management plan for the adversity. If you're doing proper project risk management, you're looking across the gauntlet at every potential risk and impact that could bring that adversity that you need a resilient plan for. Flexibility, have a contingency plan for that, even if it seems low probability. Transparent communication, bad news doesn't improve with time. So if you're transparent with the bad news, not thinking it's going to get better, or sometimes even within myself, I have a Superman complex where I can fix that before I tell anybody, but it's better just to be transparent. And then emotional intelligence, put yourself in the role of others so you can relate to where they're coming from. In order to have a resilient spirit and an empathetic spirit, it can't just be the situation you're in, it has to be across the board. So making sure we're on top of our emotional intelligence is important. Building a resilient project team, surround yourself with resilient professionals, build a culture of resiliency. That starts with diverse skills and experiences, emphasizing the outcomes, build that vision and show this is what good looks like. If we work together, this is what we can achieve. Stress that discipline focused on your specific value streams. Relate it more narrowly in terms of scope. Allow your team members to self-manage. Micromanagement's a thing of the past, and even in these virtual environments with hybrid, you have to trust your employees. If you can't trust them to work independently, then you probably shouldn't have hired them. And if you're like, well, I didn't hire them, I inherited them, you still need to come to a happy medium to allow them to self-manage. Encourage empathy and self-reflection. Powerful speakers being brought in for a lunch and learn, like Lieutenant Morgan, can kind of build that. That's great that you have this problem in life, but there's problems bigger, or your life may be perfect, but everybody's isn't. And then monitor the team proactively and ensure a good team alignment, that the team's moving together. Jack Welch's 20-70-10 model that worked in the 90s that doesn't so much work anymore. You can't have that much disparity between the team. So making sure that you're moving as a team in the right direction together can help build that resilient culture. And then in terms of project delivery, building in your process and workflow, resiliency, minimize the workarounds, promote task discipline. Don't take those shortcuts that often we do take to make sure we're timely with the iron triangle. Ensure resource redundancy, which is hard as the workforce, especially federal government and other agencies, are continue to be more resource restricted. Having two resources with a similar skill set may be a pipe dream. As generative AI comes into the workplace more operationally, that may be reduced because there's that AI element that can assist with that capability. But for now, try to promote cross-training so you do have that redundancy. So in the case of a team member having to take a delayed absence or go on short-term disability, you're prepared. And then make sure that your data and all your metrics are accessible offline. Software as a service platforms, you're dependent on Salesforce, you're dependent on Jira, you're dependent on ServiceNow, you're dependent on Google Drive. Those can go down. Big storms can come and take out the grid. It probably won't happen, but you need to be prepared and take that extra step to make sure that you have accessibility to things. So if we don't have the blessing of internet connection, your projects don't suffer. Any thoughts on this in terms of resiliency in our worlds, or any threads that anyone wants to pull? Okay, well, another thanks to Lieutenant Morgan. We greatly appreciate his story, and we'll keep that in our minds and hearts for months, days, years to come. And we hope we earn the privilege of your time tonight. Reminder that in terms of the first Wednesday of the month, we won't be here in June and August, so we'll be back in September. But we will be offering things incrementally in between to make sure that you still have PDUs available to you. And we thank you for your night. Drive safely. Thanks for all our virtual attendees, and have a great summer out here. Yep, and pay attention to the newsletter tomorrow for the baseball game. If you can make it, it would be great to see as many members as possible and to meet some of the great leaders and project managers that the PMI Baltimore chapter has. Thank you. Have a good night.